W4JPL.
W4JPL, KO4CTM.
Hey Jim, how you doing tonight, buddy?
Doing pretty well. I was wondering what the conditions were going to be like given the storms that are out west, but it doesn't sound too bad.
Yeah, QSL. Sorry I didn't have any fuses for you, buddy. Like everything else in my life, it's in storage.
Well, I was able to find one, so I'm talking on the Valiant now as we speak. So I'm assuming that it's working the way it should.
Any idea what I'm doing?
Yeah, because I did something stupid and touched something I wasn't supposed to touch.
Is it good for you?
Fortunately, it just blew the fuse and didn't blow me up. But yeah, I accidentally hit something. I was working on some stuff, trying to make the thing sound a little better and not quite as tinny. So that's what I was into.
Okay, well, so JPL, looking North Carolina. Yeah, frequency.
All right. Hello, CQ, the old friends net for 160. This is N4LQ. Steve in Shelby, North Carolina, calling CQ, the old friends net. We meet here every night at 8 p.m. And this is a roundtable net conducted in the amplitude modulation only. So those wishing to check in, please call now.
KO4CTM.
K4QE. WB4NKL.
All right, so far I got the KO4CTM and W4JPL, who was real strong but is now real weak. Must have blown a fuse. K4QE and WB4NKL. Anybody else? Yeah, a little static, but not real bad. Signal level is totally outperforming the static tonight. So, well, over here I'm on the AF-67 as usual, and I changed mics, stuck a 10D mic on here just to play with it. Thought I'd sound a little more mellow, and running the amp. It's about 300 watts carrier power. And anyhow, it looks like the sky has been off and on kind of cloudy all day, and I thought, is it going to rain or not? So what's the forecast here? Let me take a look at this because it keeps changing. But no, nothing till tomorrow night. So I got to get up early in the morning, take the XYL to the heart doctor. She actually finally got an appointment after trying for about 2 months. So that's good news for us, and hopefully they can get her diagnosed. Over to you, Jim, KO4CTM, N4LQ.
N4LQ in the group. Very good, Steve. Good evening to you. Good evening to John again. K4QE Tony and WB4NKL Cliff. Good evening to all of you. Yeah, well, the sun actually came out here today. I thought it was going to rain. It got awful cloudy and overcast this morning, and then it cleared off, and the sun came out, and it was fairly nice day overall. But just busy at work. But I did steal a few minutes away to try to work on the Valiant. I did replace a couple of I replaced one capacitor with a much higher value. It's like a 10 meg, and then I put in a few orange drops in there as well. So I don't know if it sounds any better than normal or not, but there it is. So on to you, and good deal, Steve, on being able to get your wife to the heart doctor. I hope that all comes out good. On to you, John, W4JPL, KO4CTM.
Okay, KO4CTM, and the group, W4JPL. Well, Steve, I'm glad you got a appointment for your wife. That's real important. 76 degrees here. Beautiful day outside. The signals are all over the place right now. They're up, they're down, they're sideways, they're backwards, they're forwards, the whole 9 yards. It's pretty incredible. Hold on a second here, I want to check something. Let's see. Just making sure I'm tuned. Okay. Let's see, okay. All right, fine business. I played April Fool's on myself this morning. I got my brain switched up, and I went over to the Cartersville Hospital this morning and to get my monthly shots. And after I checked in, they said, "You don't have an appointment today." I said, "What do you mean?" And she said, "So for some reason, I had my 5-year-old brain, and I had it is what it is, and it's a great philosopher pop right said, I am what I am. 4QE, W4JPL.
All right. Well, good evening to Steve and Jim and John and Cliff. And John, I got your email. I've been tied up all day today and up until a few minutes ago, actually. So I haven't had a chance to do any research yet, but I will respond to your email. So anyway, everything going fine here. Beautiful day outside, at least for myself. Obviously, I was inside most of the day, but I went out right after work to do some shopping with my wife. And we got back, and then I made dinner, and then I came over here into the shack. So here I am. And good to hear everybody tonight. There is no problem hearing anyone. I got the power turned down on this thing so that I don't overheat this darn amplifier again. And I'm keeping my eye on the temperature gauge this time. You know, when the thing tripped last night, I heard a beep, but it wasn't a very loud beep. And it certainly wasn't the screeching alarm that won't go away until you press a button that you get when you transmit it wrong. So that's why I didn't catch it right away. But so far, so good. Anyway, so I'll pass it on over to Cliff. WB4NKL in the group from K4QE.
Yeah, K4QE, it's WB4NKL. Good deal, Tony. Good copy on everybody. Static crashes are somewhat subdued tonight compared to what they have been. And I missed last night. I wonder how it was last night. It's been, never did rain here. Looked like it was going to rain earlier, but it's been sort of sunny, off and on, cloudy, and cut up into the 70s. And we had a friend come by and plowed up around the new building down there for me, and I never did get any grass sowed around it. So he's got a tractor with a rototiller that goes about all the way across the back of it, runs on the power takeoff, and he worked all that up into powder, and we put out about 40 pounds of grass seed, and he went over it again. So now I'm wanting some rain. I'd like to get that grass started. So it's ready for the rain now. Go ahead, Steve. N4LQ, WB4NKL.
Okay, it's N4LQ. Do we have any more check-ins? You got your low mids, and it sounds real good now. As far as the frequency response goes, I don't think you're going to do much better than that. I'd just leave it like it is. So you did flatten things out. I'm not sure what you did. You said you replaced a capacitor at 10 meg, and I'm like, wait a minute, capacitor and 10 meg, that doesn't make sense. So I'm assuming you're talking about the coupling capacitor or more between the stages, or maybe you were talking about the resistor on the input of the first audio amplifier and raising that up a bit in value, possibly, not sure. Both those things are potentials. Well, Tony, I've been looking at pulse width modulation, a bunch of different videos. From what I conclude, these guys that make these videos are not very good at explaining what they're talking about. They kind of start in the middle and work their way out from both sides, but nobody just says, here's what pulse width modulation is in regard to a transmitter. And it's hard to find anything but, in regard to a light bulb or something. But even the text versions leave a lot to be desired. And I would like to understand what the advantage is, because you're taking audio and you're converting it through a process of more or less mixing with a pulsed signal and changing the width of the pulse with the audio, and then using that to modulate the final amplifier, and the end result is a sine wave. Well, okay, that's a convoluted way to go about doing it, seems to me. Somehow that is supposed to be more efficient, and they're real proud of themselves for getting more than, or 100% or more modulation by doing that. And this one guy had a series of 7 videos where he started out, and his thing was to make the entire transmitter from scratch, and it took him 7 videos to get to the end. And when he got to the end, he made some QSOs on the air, and one of them with several of the AM experts that do pulse width modulation. He kept calling it pulse duration modulation. I don't know, he didn't like pulse width for some reason, but anyhow, ended up he had crummy sounding audio. So that was the final of that whole thing. He had crummy audio. It was muffled sounding. Anyway, so I'm like, okay, I could just buy for $1,500, I could buy the transmitter and just be done with it. But then what have I got? I don't know, a lightweight, full eagle power, solid state transmitter. Anyhow, so much for that. Back around we go. KO4CTM, N4LQ.
Q in the group. Yeah. My apologies, Steve, if I said a 10 meg capacitor, I did not mean that. I meant a 10 meg resistor, R25, that is on the 12AX7. So it's, the original value is 1 meg. So I read several things. They were like, you need to replace that 1 meg with something between 10 and 22 megs. So the one that was in it, I think, was like 2 megs, but I took that out and put in a 10. And then I did add the orange drops. Those, I think they're 0.1 600 volt orange drop caps, also on the 12AX7 on those pins. So that's pretty much it. That's pretty much all I did today, was just change out that one resistor R25 from 2 meg to 10, and then I added in the 0.1 capacitors there in that circuit. And of course, the clipping circuit is disconnected and all of that good stuff. So anyway, that's pretty much all I did to it at this point. So glad to know that it does at least sound a little better. And as far as the pulse width modulation, like I said last night, I think that trying to build something like that's probably not somewhere I would go, but sometimes the old Scotty off of Star Trek, the more plumbing you put into something, the easier it is to clog up the drain. So sometimes trying to reinvent the wheel or make something better than what's already been around for a long time, it just doesn't necessarily make things better. So I don't know. I kind of just like the idea of sticking with just regular old amplitude modulation and just going with it. So anyway, on to you, John. W4JPL, KO4CTM.
Okay, KO4CTM in the group, W4JPL. Okay. Pulse width modulation I have zero interest in, period. If it's got a vacuum tube in it, I'm not too interested. Got solid state crap in it right now with the CSU. It's my toilet amendment, so to speak. Put that no value, you guys can. Once I move the toilet amendment, I'm sure I'll be the Elmac setup. So, yeah. You guys can talk about it. I can't buy maps like that, so for JBL.
Well, there are tube transmitters that do pulse width modulation too, but okay. Yeah, Steve, one of the things I meant to mention on my last transmission was I'm shocked to hear that it took so long to get an appointment with a cardiologist for your wife. Wow, that's crazy. I can't believe that. I mean, what, do you have to have a heart attack to be seen right away? I mean, holy crap. Cardiac, I don't understand why they took so long to see your wife. That's crazy. But anyway, I'm glad that she finally got one, and I hope everything turns out okay. Please keep us informed. I've been through all of that, so I know what it's like, and I have a very good relationship with my cardiologist. He's my second best friend. So my best to her. And yeah, I've read quite a bit about pulse width modulation. I've been reading about it for a long time. I don't claim to be an expert or even somewhat of an expert about it, but I know a fair amount, enough to speak somewhat intelligently about it to these guys that actually run it. And it's been used in the broadcast industry for decades. Now they've gone on to a different form of with modulation where they actually turn off entire modules. The transmitters consist of many modules, and the modules get turned on. The modulation credits go off. So it's an even more advanced form. But it's all in the name of efficiency. These transmitters run, 95 to 98% efficient, and they've done it. That's what they were looking to do for so many decades, and pulse width modulation enabled that to happen. So anyway, I'll get off my soapbox now and turn over to Cliff. WB4NKL from K4QE.
K4QE, it's WB4NKL. Yeah, that's the only reason I see for it. I don't really see a need for it as hams. Power bill's not going to be that big, but that transmitter that they were running over there where we went and picked up the RCA transmitters, it was a little solid state box, and meter on it said it was putting out 12 kilowatt, and there wasn't a lot of heat involved, so I'm sure it was efficient. So I guess if you're putting out 12 kilowatt and paying the power bill, you want that power bill to be as small as possible. But I really don't understand, or never have got into all the theory behind it. Doug, W4DCS, he built one of those rigs. He could tell you all about it, and he sounded good. His sounds great, and it'll put out all kinds of power. But I really, for ham use, I don't really see much advantage. If my power bill is another $1 or $2 a month, it's not going to make any difference to me. Jim, your Valiant does sound a lot better. I don't know exactly which fix helped it, but it's got more audio range now. And before, it sounded like I needed to grab a hold of the tuning knob and tune you in a little better all the time. Is what it sounded like to me, but sounds good now. So I think you got it going in the right direction. I guess what I'd want to hear, Steve, is one of those Collins rigs you were talking about, the FX. I think it was the FX, run the control grid modulation. I guess when that transmitter come out, it had to be control grid because they were using triodes in the output. They didn't have a screen grid to modulate, so I guess that's the reason they went with control grid in that Collins rig. And there was an article in Electric Radio sometime in the past year. A guy had built up a control grid modulated transmitter, and he was bragging about it. So I'll have to look that up again and look at it more closely. I know it didn't. I think he just had 112 AX7 was the whole modulator, so it didn't take a lot of modulation power. N4LQ, WB4NKL.
Okay, got any more check-ins? N4LQ listening.
Hello.
just scroll down through there. Man, oh man, the guy's he makes beautiful homebrew projects. I mean, they are professional, and he's a patent attorney that takes care of legal matters with patents and so forth, and he's very meticulous. Anyway, he's got a picture of the Collins 30FX there and a little bit of information, and he actually owns one, and as far as he can tell, there's only 3 in the country. One is in the Collins Museum, and the other one belongs to a WA3 something up east. And somewhere along the line, Brian's friend there, K4J JRC whatever, came up with the RF deck for one, and it ended up going to the WA3 to complete his needs. So there's 3 of them in existence. Anyway, Paul said he's retiring this year, and his goal is to get that 30FX on the air. And I want to hear it because the guy that gave the talk in the video said it had really, really hi-fi audio, very beautiful audio. So I'm anxious to hear it. And grid modulation, what got me started on this, I was reading a 1936 handbook. I was reading about the different types of modulation of that time, and grid modulation, low-level modulation was not very common, and with nothing but a control grid to use, that's what he did. Art Collins went with control grid modulation, and it was 100 watts CW and only 30 watts AM. And I don't know what the percentage of modulation would have been, but it didn't take much to modulate, if you can imagine. It doesn't take much to modulate a screen grid. It takes much less to modulate a control grid. So with that, we'll go ahead and turn it over to Jim, who's sounding better and better. KO4CTM, N4LQ.
N4LQ in the group. Very good, Steve. All interesting stuff there. I'm just curious if you saw the email I responded to Brian sent. The fellow up there in New Hampshire, I guess, he's got a Collins 300G, I guess, that he's looking for a new home for. But yeah, picture of him there standing beside 3 or 4 of those huge monsters. I'm not sure which one the 300G is, but it says that there was only like 150 examples of the transmitter estimated in the production run. So that'll be something for somebody to get their hands on. So his priority is to place it with someone who will appreciate the 1940 Art Deco styling and can keep the transmitter on the air. But that's in New Hampshire, so that's a long way to travel. But of course, it doesn't say what he wants for it either. But that's all interesting stuff. And yeah, the control grid, that's and 30 watts. I mean, that would be an interesting little transmitter to hear for sure. So I'm just going to keep it rolling. I'll go to John, W4JPL, KO4CTM.
Okay, KO4CTM in the group, W4JPL. Static crashes are pretty wild tonight. Eyes are 60 over. So that's pretty amazing in itself. Well, I got lots of projects to do once I move, but I'm not going to be building anything like a pulse width transmitter. I don't know. It doesn't do anything for me. I like this big old stuff that I can't lift anymore. Looking forward to the Rally Anthos. Jim and I will be going there, so we should have a good time on Saturday. Tony, of course, not going to go because he's going to be playing hooky in Texas or something. I don't know. He ain't coming with us. We want to play. P4QW4JPL.
Yeah, and I'm sorry I'm going to miss it, but oh well. This Eclipse is a once-in-a-lifetime event for me. So that's going to take precedence. But I certainly hope you guys have fun, and I'll be with you in spirit. I will be in the air while you're at the Ham Fest. I totally agree with your sentiment, Cliff, regarding the reasoning behind it and how it applies to AM transmitters. I mean, the other, putting aside the power savings, which I know is nowhere near, in the class of AM transmitters, is not a huge concern, but what is a concern, of course, is a modulation transformer. And pulse width modulated transmitters do not require modulation transformers. So you can build a high-level modulated transmitter and not require a modulation transformer. Of course, you could, the other end of the spectrum is your low-level modulated transmitters, like control grid, screen grid, or suppressor grid, and that's the opposite end of the spectrum. Efficient for ease of modulation and no modulation transformer. So I've always been interested in building something like a suppressor grid. That would be interesting. Get an 803 and modulate the suppressor grid. That's supposed to be dead simple and easy to do. It doesn't have the criticality of load that you have with the screen grid transmitter. Control grid modulation, I obviously am familiar with, that's what you have to do with a triode. But I've never seen much written about it in the ham radio handbooks anyway. Maybe I should go through my older radio handbooks from, those West Coast handbooks and see if I can find something on it, because frankly, I don't remember ever reading it. Anyway, it's a little fun project to do. All right, back to you, Cliff. WB4NKL in a group from K4QE.
K4QE, WB4NKL. I don't know whether the band lengthened out or the static is really picked up this go around, and I didn't copy 100% that time. Got most of it, but static crashes was taking everybody out a little bit. And so I'm gonna go ahead and sign and start the end of it, Steve. Like you said, one checks out, they all start checking out. But and I've had a pretty long day down here helping him with the sowing the grass and everything. Kind of tired, so I'm gonna call it quits early today and say 73s and enjoyed it. N4LQ, WB4NKL.
Yeah, you sound kind of tuckered out there, Cliff. So yeah, go ahead and we'll talk to you tomorrow. Let's see if anybody else wants to check in to fill in for you. Oh, well, guess it's going to be a small group tonight. Tony, there is a transmitter that does control grid and screen grid modulation at the same time, and that's my Amico TX-86. I've got two of them sitting here, and I love them. I used it on the net quite a few times, and a lot of people think it's the best modulated transmitter I've got. And it's just a little thing. It's got a separate power supply, and it puts it, well, you can fit it in the palm of your hand. It's only about 5 or 6 inches square. It's a cube, and it's the Amico TX-86. Take a look at it sometime. But it's the only one I know of that used what they called dual grid modulation. And it does the usual control carrier screen grid trick, and then it's got a tap on that going over to the control grid via a resistor to give it a little bit of audio, and somehow the phase works out to its advantage, and Boy, it really gives you nice, clean sounding audio. But anyway, that's about all I've got, and the static is getting worse, so we'll not hold it much longer and prepare for the final of the net here. So we'll say 73s and go ahead and pass it around for the same. KO4CTM, Jim, go ahead, N4LQ.
You in the group, very good to see you. Well, 73 to everybody. Have a great evening. Thanks for calling in, Steve, and being here every night. And I hope everybody has a good rest of the evening. So I'll say 7-3 here from Climax, North Carolina. On to you, John. W4JPL, KO4CTM. 7-3. Good night.
It actually works, so it's all good. Okay, KO4CTM from the group, W4JPL. Okay, boys and girls, I've had enough fun myself, and I got to get up early tomorrow morning to go exercise. And hopefully that's not a joke, too. 73, God bless, talk to you fellas tomorrow night. K42, W4JPL.
All right, very good. Good night, everyone. Good to hear everyone tonight, even through the static, and we'll look for you tomorrow night. This is K4QE. Good night. Over to you, Cliff.
All right, 73, everybody. This is N4LQ closing the Old Friends Net.